It's great to be back at the scene of the crime, McHenry County. My life in 2015, the way I'd known it the previous 15 years, came to an abrupt end. My marriage, which was good, stabilizing, and filled with promise, was swallowed whole by my husband's untreated depression. While certainly not perfect, my marriage had been a source for so much good in my life that prior to that had been intermittently plagued with abuse, abandonment, and a genuine longing for love, acceptance, and attachment. When it all came crashing down, it's noteworthy that in my grief, pain, and angst fog, one thing was crystal clear. Everything was up for review. Nothing was absolute or off limits. I stopped. I questioned everything and everyone and everything again. How did I get here? What had driven my decision making? And most importantly, what was going to propel me forward? Let's start with what wasn't. I have two intelligent, gorgeous, compassionate children from that marriage. And I did not want all that pressure on them, so no living for the kids. I did not have that typical family of origin to lean on, so no running home to daddy. Suddenly, it was me, my faith, my values, and that's when I began to look at everything differently. And while I do not suggest you lose all your coping mechanisms and bottom out emotionally, as I did later that year, I do invite you to ask yourself the questions I asked myself again and again in that season of my life. The first, what if everything I believe and was ever taught, directly or indirectly, was just an option? What if normal is optional? Journey with me for a few minutes as I explain to you and unravel and put back together again everything I thought I knew to be true and normal, and why normal is dangerous when related to the human experience, particularly the experience of Black American women. Webster's dictionary defines normal as conforming to a type, regular, or consistent pattern occurring naturally. In the dictionary, they actually have an example. He had a normal childhood. Right? What comes to mind when you hear me say normal childhood? Now, there's almost 100 people in here, which means technically we could have 100 perspectives on what a normal childhood is, based solely on the potential of actual experiences of all the people in this room. But I know what came to mind, and without any of you telling me, I know exactly what came to most of your minds. And that was shaped by not only your own experiences, but by the media and images and societal influences that you've been exposed to since you were a child and since. Does that make it right? How different could or would that be if we weren't sitting in McHenry County, Illinois, but rather McHenry County, California, Alaska, or Alabama? I think you get where I'm going, and I want you to join me on this exercise of normal is optional. I want you right now to think about your story. Your personal story. I want you to dissect it and identify what you learned about normal. What about your family? Their history, their story. What were those early influences of normal in your life? I've got a confession. Disney movies. Yeah, Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, whose name is Aurora, Beauty and the Beast later, Belle. I bet you can't guess why I liked all those Disney princesses. None of them had their mom. My mom passed away when I was 4 years old. So being without a mom is my normal. So much so that I didn't even notice that the Disney princesses didn't have their moms until I became one and started watching those movies over again with my daughter. In fact, when Disney actually made a princess for me who looked like me, Princess Tiana from Princess and the Frog, I didn't relate to her because that story centered around her relationship with her mom and the absence of her father, which was abnormal to me. I had my dad. I still have my dad. In fact, my dad was my first glimpses of normal as optional socially. And that's because having my dad was not the normal that society screamed and continues to scream to people who look like me. And that message of normals, guys, it stuck. Because when it became clear that my marriage was irreparable, a different type of resistance set in. I started clinging to a dead marriage. And I clung to that not because I loved him and not because I loved the relationship, because I hated the idea that I was going to be a single mom. I could not face being a single mom as a black woman in this country. And I ask you, where did I learn that? Who taught me that? We did. The way we talk about public policy did and still does. The media images. The way we talk about education and crime and communities. All those things reinforced to me over and over that not only being a black single mom is detrimental to me and my kids, but that it's bad for the greater good. So it's fitting that I am here in McHenry County, the scene of the crime being the death of my marriage and the birth of my single motherhood. This county has held both the building and crumbling of some of the most important milestones in my life. It was here that I was elected to public office, the first black person to serve in the municipality where I was on the city council, and one of the first black women ever to win on a ballot in McHenry County a decade ago. It was here that I started my first business, which led me to my second business, which led me to my third career. But it was also here that my heart and soul were crushed because my marriage kind of crumbled semi-publicly. And watching the public's reaction when we moved midway through my second term, because I spoke openly about our experiences here as a black and Mexican family. Because see, you know, in McHenry County, like for those 12 years that I lived here, I'd always known normal was optional, professionally speaking. But for the 12 years I lived here, I kind of lulled myself into thinking I had achieved normal by society's standard. I'm straight, we're married, we own our house, we're living the dream in the suburbs. And then normal was optional academically and professionally. And it starts with back when I was in high school. I was in an honors program, and an English teacher unsuccessfully tried to remove me from that honors program. But I appealed the assessment criteria because normal was optional. When I was pushing to go to college, and my guidance counselor, my immediate and extended family had differing views about what was normal for me, I proceeded to get accepted into one of the top journalism schools in this country on an appeal because normal was optional. A decade ago, when I was climbing a corporate ladder that no one wanted me on, carving an unconventional path to CEO, and I jumped off and started my own business, normal was optional. And now, as I pivot into my third career in my late 40s as a TV and film executive, launching my no-name, no credits yet production house on a Main Street stage at the most recent Sundance Film Festival, normal's still optional. But that's not confined to just me, y'all. Look at the statistics on black American women's achievement academically. Who's earning all the degrees in this country? Look at our career progression. In fact, black American women are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs in this country. Normal is optional, professionally speaking. But socially and personally, hasn't caught on. And this is my love letter to Black American women. Because you know, anything you do for Black American women, you do for everybody. So, for anybody else who can benefit from this, yay, we're excited, come along with us. But this is life and death for people who look like me, and the stats back me up. 4 out of 5 Black American women are obese or overweight. 60% of us more likely to be that way than our white non-Hispanic counterparts. And it starts well before womanhood, as 50% of Black American girls are overweight or obese. People who are overweight suffer high blood pressure, blood fats, diabetes, LDL cholesterol, all high factors for risk factors for heart disease and stroke, where our death rates are significantly higher than our white counterparts. The maternity mortality rate is 4 times higher for Black women. And guess what? Socioeconomic status, all them degrees we're earning, and you know how we're getting that financial achievement with our businesses and our career progression, does not change the statistic. Black women are more susceptible to depression and other mental health illnesses, but our treatment rates are significantly lower. Chronic stress brought on by racism is attributed to the accelerated biological aging of Black women. Wait, what? Don't I read? Don't I live? Black don't crack? On the outside, they forgot the asterisk. Black women, with or without children, are more likely to be seen in a motherly manner, which puts pressure on us to put others before ourselves in every single environment we're in. And recent research suggests that while sexual harassment is a frequent experience for all women, Black women are targeted globally because of our low social status. So I ask you again, where did we learn that? The images, the narratives, the stories, our country's narrative, the norms. So I ask you, what are you going to do to change the norms? What is your role in normal is optional? Well, I got a clue. The next time you hear yourself saying that something is normal or abnormal as it relates to relationships, interactions with humans, stop, breathe. Ask yourself, is that true? Where did I learn that? Why? Why not? And be gentle, be gracious with yourself with those answers. Because I want you to be able to do that again and again without judgment for yourself and for others. Normal is optional. The norms about whose lives matter. The norms about marital status. The norms about beauty. The norms about vulnerability. The norms about roles and responsibilities. The norms about women's bodies and our autonomy over them. The norms about family. The norms about spirituality. The norms about sexual habits and sexual appetites. All the social norms that you have learned and internalized are optional. Normal is optional.